At the very beginning in 2002, I'd already topped out in the newspaper world as an infographics guy and an editorial art director and all that. I'd already topped out, right? And it was clear I just couldn't grow anymore. My buddies and I used to go out with huge VHS cameras and shoot early mountain bike edits. Fate's funny, we're just doing that intrinsically. Like we just had a desire to do it. And so one of my friends saw it, and he was a TV producer. And he said to me, he's like, you know, Lee, you'd make a good information architect. I had never heard that expression. So I looked into it, and it turns out an information architect, they organize information and make it simple, basically. And that's what I've been doing as an infographics artist. So I contacted a few companies, including Alta Vista, the original badass search engine. I just called, I said, hey, I want to understand what you guys do, you know? Can I just buy you lunch and talk to you? I get there, and like half hour in, they're like, is this a job interview? I was like, sure. You know, and then like I love what they were doing. And then I was taught early on to say, like at the end of a job interview, well, what are the reasons you wouldn't hire me? And they said, well, you have no experience. And I was like, that's fair. How about giving me a test? I used my infographics Kung Fu. I wrote a report. Here's how it can improve. Boom, hired. But I was doing that. I was racing. I was winning Cat 1 series is up in North Star, which is a big deal. Gnarly, real stuff. I was already having a lot of stress in my life, a lot of stress. And it showed up as a pain syndrome in my body. And just talking about it, it's coming back. I had incredible pain in my body, mostly in my forearms and hands. And that coincided with me starting to work for a living, like normal jobs. And it was vexing because on the weekend I was an athlete and I could do anything. But then at work and in that day-to-day world, my arms hurt so much. I understand now what that was. That was my chi being undirected. But I always had this sense that I was built for something different. And it was becoming clearer and clearer that it had to do with mountain biking and it had to do with my communication skills. By now, I've been writing for most of the mountain bike magazines. I was working these full-time gnarly jobs. Right around in this point, right around this time, I started writing a column for Fox, the clothing company. And they told me it had like 1 million recipients. It was a big deal. And I've been writing those for a while. And at one point, my boss there said, dude, we need a name for your column. And out of my ass sideways came the phrase, Lee likes bikes. I'm like, it's alliterative and it rhymes. Sign me up. That was it. That was the extent of my marketing research. I like to claim I was a genius, but it's what came out of my mouth. I started doing a website, LeeLikesBikes.com, 2002. And we'd go race and ride, and I'd take pictures and write articles. And I would just hand code the site and put it up. In the beginning, it was very much about our experiences. This is what that race course is like. I used to love to write like real-time detail, what this track's like. And so that people could read it and feel the course or feel the trail in Santa Cruz. At one point, we had 150,000 unique people reading Lee Likes Bikes. I started doing it for the simple, elegant reason that I wanted to. I'm at Alta Vista. The NASDAQ had crashed. We did not go IPO. We had like 5 or 6 rounds of layoffs. I was the only person in that whole company who was willing to work for a living. That's basically it. So I never got laid off and I kept my job. I was succeeding there. I was racing my bike. I've been having this just ever increasing sense that I just wasn't doing what I'm supposed to do. There's a movie called Whale Rider. It had won a bunch of Sundance Film Festival awards. It's about this girl whose destiny is to become the king of a Maori tribe. You can see this girl is just different. She's sharp. She doesn't fit in. She's just different. And like the movie was masterful. The way they captured that, right? It got me. You can see it. This is real. Like it got me. It tugged at me. And it was like a, dude, pay attention movie. And the tribulations are coming through and her life is happening. And I start to cry. I just started to cry. Somebody tapped me on the shoulder. I could see myself as a speck. And someone said, are you seeing this movie, Lee? Are you watching this movie? And I'm like, oh my God, yes. Oh my God, I see it. Holy fuck. Holy heck. And the voice said, so are you honoring your fate? And I was just like, no. was Friday. I quit Monday. I walked into my boss. I said, brother, I'm done. They're like, how much money do you want? I was like, you know, man, I've been looking at this precipice for 10 years. I've crossed it. It was like I had just crossed the line. It's a decision I've been afraid to make. When you see truth like that, you cannot unsee it. You can't. So I quit. For years and years and years and years, I've said, this was a crazy moment. No, it wasn't. This was another step in a series of steps that I can see on hindsight toward my purpose. I'm an instrument of the world, the universe, the great Oreo in the sky, we'll call it. You think working on a daily newspaper is stressful? It is. You think like being the last man standing in the user experience and usability groups and the marketing departments of a big .com is stressful? It is. You know what's really stressful? Opening up a Word doc. After you've been telling yourself and everybody who will listen, this Pulitzer I won, that was just, I don't care. This other thing I won, I don't give a shit about that. This money I make, I don't give a shit about that. Someday, I'm going to write the definitive mountain bike book. I'm the man to write the definitive mountain bike book that tells you actually how it works. I'm going to write it, I'm going to photograph it, and I'm an award-winning infographics artist. I'm going to illustrate it. And you sit down with that cursor of death going, okay, mofo, what do you made it? That was stressful. First of all, I was like, this is going to be the best book ever. And I had a lot of stress around that. One of the most specific things that was freaking me out was I was like, I don't want to be that bro who's like, yeah, man, lean back. How much and why? What's the equation for where you need to be on a bicycle? Where's the equation? And I like went there. Headwind, hit a blade of grass. You know, what do you do? And finally, after I suffered enough, it said, yo, bro, light hands, heavy feet. And I was like, oh, that's simple. And I coined that phrase, and it's a part of mountain biking. I spent almost a month in Whistler shooting the book. Spent every day riding with like Brian Lopes, Richie Schley, all these cats. That you don't get slower doing that. It's just funny, I spent a month in Whistler. No crashes except one. One crash in a month. And this won't shock you. I had $10,000 of camera gear on my back. And we're going down national downhill. It's no kidding. World champion, me, other famous person. I'm sorry. World champion, future awesome dude named Lee McCormack, trying to retell my story. I'm going to retell the story all the way. 3 world-class mountain bikers in a row. I'm in the middle. See, I'm recasting my story here. But dude, I'm coming over this rock. I'm like, I got a lot of camera gear. I better not go over the bars. L-series lens broken in half. It's like classic, right? Don't be like Luke Skywalker when you got Yoda on your foot and thinking you're a Jedi, because you're no longer a Jedi in that moment. I finished the book, okay, and I did a good job. It was definitely the book. And it's the biggest selling trade book for that publisher, Human Kinetics. I signed them by hand. I put them in a mailbox myself back in the day. I get a PayPal from Ned Overend, the god, the legend of the sport. He buys 5 copies. He's like, hey, Lee, hope everything's going well. He's a cool guy. The previous best-selling book was his. So he bought 5 copies. He's like, I want you to sign one for my son, some from his friends, and one for me. And you have this moment and you get a Sharpie and you go, Ned, comma. What do you even say? I knew that real sports, skiing is a good example, have curricula. And I decided, I was like, you know, I'm the guy to do that. Like, this is a skill I have. And so I went ahead and started just writing it myself, right? As a pure information design project. I made a big chart. Like I made these flow charts of how the skills interrelate, massively complicated information design project. And I came up with a curriculum, right? And then someone who's pretty smart said to me, you know, Lee, maybe before you publish that, you should test it. I never had any inclination to be a teacher. I trained my staff when I was at the paper. I guess I had that skill. And then I got a gig with like this local group in Boulder, like with kids. A lot of those kids, an extremely large number of them, went on to become professional mountain bikers. And more importantly, they're all lifelong cyclists still. It's so sick to run into some dude in his like late 20s with his fiance or his kid going, Lee, oh my God, whoa, you taught me how to ride. Yeah, he's the guy who made me the national champion. It's cool, you know? And I was like refining the methods, right? Refining the methods. And then the parents were like, whoa, this is cool. Do you coach? Sure. How much? I don't know, $10 an hour. You know, and I started like, it was word of mouth, and I started coaching, $30 an hour. And now I charge exactly professional rate. I'm a professional. I've been doing this for 20 years. There are thousands of qualified attorneys in this country. There are very few qualified mountain bike coaches, and I'm one of the best. More important that I love, because when I'm engaging with somebody, I get to use the totality of me. And for years and years and years, I would have said, you get my intellect, you get my athleticism, you get my insight, you get my emotional awareness. But now it's shifting significantly toward energy. And I don't know what the words are to use. Spirit? Spirit. That's where it's going. I think I'm around 9,500 people that I've dealt with directly. So I'm getting to the point where I've seen a lot and I've got a good data set. I'll watch somebody arrive. I'll watch how somebody moves around the car. I'll watch how someone preps their gear. If there are other people around, I'll watch how they interact with other people. And that gives me an enormous insight into what that person's like. And that informs how I greet the person. Who we are shows up on the bike. And if I ride 100 yards with you, I know who you are. I can tell. I can feel it in my bones. One of the things that's cool about this gig I have here that I've created really is that I don't live in any silo. Personal trainers, they only want you to go to the gym every day. Yogis think you should do yoga all day, every day. Most cycling trainers want you at FTP, and psychologists have their thing, and physicists have their things, and engineers have their things. And I get to be all the things and none of the things at the same time. It's freaking awesome. Remember the movie City Slickers, where Billy Crystal turns to the old cowboy and goes, hey, what's the secret of life? And and then the cowboy, Curly, goes, oh, it's Jack Palance. One thing. I know what that means now. You know what that means? You pick a thing. Mountain biking is a great one because it has all the lessons in it, all of them. Right? I'm lucky that I'm obsessive. It's not OCD, by the way. There's no D. OCSP, superpower. Obsessive compulsive superpower. And so I've stuck with mountain biking this whole time. I started 33 years ago. I was a Weight Watchers kid with my mom. I think we were fat buddies. I was already mortified. Inseam of 30, waist of 36. Buying clothes sucked. And I remember one time my dad's like, we got to go to the special store now. Big and tall. And I'll never forget, man. I'll never forget this. It takes time to get out of your psyche. Like the coolest dude in my high school happened to be a black dude, handsome, muscular, always dressed cool, surrounded by girls. Coolest dude. He's the guy who was my guy at the clothing store. He measures my inseam, measures my waist, measures my butt and goes, quote, whoa, Tiger, looks like you ought to skip some lunches. So that's where I started, right? As a bike rider. And of course that gives you some fire, does it not? So I lost weight. I became a different, I think myself began to become revealed. The specific aspects of riding that I have found compelling, I understand now in hindsight, were lessons I needed to learn. And when I say I'm not talking about this sack of meat right here. That's not what I'm talking about. This is temporary. I'm talking about my essence, right? The essential Lee, we'll call it. It has taken me, it has guided me. I was compelled to do the bike thing. And back in the day, I would have said something like, you know what? I was obsessed. I was insane. I gave up all these opportunities to ride my bike. But now I don't see it that anymore at all. What I understand was that was my intuition guiding me the whole time. My own intuition was telling me, Lee, you are a world-class informational graphics guy. You have this skill set. You have trained yourself to take complicated things and make them simple. Over and over and over and over and over and over and over on deadline. Now we're going to go to software, and we're going to learn the same skills, but with interaction and time to be more complicated. Then it was time to get out of Alta Vista, and I had to do the book. And they said, you're going to learn how to be a teacher now, right? And when I say they, I talk about them. This is getting crazy, but this is my truth. I can see clearly that I've been on a trajectory. I fought it. I fought it so much. I fought it my whole freaking life. It's like, well, I want to do this thing. I'm going to write for Bike Magazine, but I got to do this too. I was always doing this and that. I want to do this, but I got to do that. I was doing all that, but I just wanted to win a Cat 1 downhill race. That's all I wanted to do. That's what my life was organized around, right? And so I'm starting to see that like those intuitions have been pulling me here, right here. Developing my coaching Kung Fu, learning how to communicate. If I get curious about training, endurance training, I research endurance training and write a book. Pump up the base, off-season base training. I want to know about like in-season peak fitness. I partner with Lester Pardo from the Boulder Center for Sports Medicine. I write that book. I know mountain bikers should all work out off the bike, but they hate the gym. So I wrote the F6 book, 6 fundamental moves for people who should work out but who don't want to, really, you know? And I've always been compelled to like learn these things. And now I have 11 books out, 11 so far. Well, part of me was always in the old world of what I should do. It was always there, less and less now. The core of me was always pulled in this direction where we're going. And I had an experience last summer where I did a fully guided, medically guided psychedelic journey. And they told me, they said, Lee, remember when you were a little kid at military school and you just had this natural like ability to lead? Look back, dummy, you never missed one promotion. They give you every single award they had. And they created a new rank for you at the end because they ran out of ranks. Like, we're on your team. We've been on your team your whole life. You just haven't seen it. You're good. We love you. We test you, but we love you. We taught you how to write. We taught you how to do infographics. We taught you how to design software. Then we told you to become an author. And then we told you to become a teacher. You started with the mechanics, like the absolute like earlobe, pancreas, elbow level of how bikes work. And you're pretty much the best in the world at that. You are. I am. I get it. All of us are. As a team. We're sorry about the first 52 years of your life. We know it was hard. We had to test you, but you passed it. They said, we are of pure joy, truth, source, God, love. Oreo is my word. We're of that state. We're of that place. And they said, some of you vessels have the opportunity to come here, and you're one of them. Clean your vessel, and we'll be seeing you. They said 2 things to me that were incredible. One was, we have a big plan for you. It's going to be hard, but we know you can handle it because you passed the test. You can do it. Stay strong. They also said, this is the coolest shit. They go, look, you'll be here soon, we think. When you get here, it's going to be so simple. It's going to be so elegant. It's going to be so everywhere under your nose that you're just going to laugh. We were out in Bentonville, and this was toward the end of a month-long road trip, total odyssey, total vision quest. Awesome. So much growth. Like when I was on that trip, I left a lot of broken stuff on the road. And I started to really come up. And I had a really, really, really deep flow experience out there in Bentonville on trail with these guys. We were with Team 43, a bunch of vets, you know, helping those guys out. I was off the back of the group. I started slipping in. I'm learning how to go there on purpose. And then all this insight starts rolling through, like about myself, about my dad. It's all coming through, right? And this new book that's in my mind, it's coming through, right? Mountain biking with the divine, we'll call it for now. It's like how to live your best life using the mountain bike as a vehicle. That's coming. And the first page says, this is an ad-lib book. Our noun is mountain bike. Put any noun you want in there. Fly rod, I don't care. It's all the same. If you go deep enough into the thing, it will teach you everything you need to learn. And mountain biking is rich for this. So I'm out there riding. I have so much neuromuscular programming. I have so much muscle memory from all the riding I've done, all the rip rolling I've done, from everything I've done, that I can ride these technical trails with complete state of no mind, like Bruce Lee style, right? Complete mechanical flow state that we all have felt, that I can go to more or less at will now. I started to feel this energy around me. I started to feel a very singular, focused thing that's also infinitely expansive. It's black, but it's not blank. It's warm. It's joyful. It's the purest sense of love and okayness I've ever experienced in my life. And depending on who you believe, I was either in a deep physiological flow state, okay, that's possible, or I was hanging out with God. I believe both. I believe that they're indistinguishable from each other. But then something starts to happen, and I start to feel this energy around me. It's everywhere. I'm surrounded by I'm not surrounded. I'm part of, I'm enveloped within, I'm in it. They were right. It's everywhere. It's so beautiful. It's so elegant. Oh my God. I'm on my mountain bike, riding at a level that I've earned. I've earned this. And here it is. I felt it all around me. All around me, man. All around me. And then I was like, whoa. And I was noticing that I was in this deep, deep transcendent state. Basically feeling God. I mean, that's the word we have. But I also noticed that I had a third person aspect of myself observing what was happening. And what I'm realizing now is like whenever we feel really bad, we feel separated. Then when we feel joyful, we feel connection to ourselves, to our friends, to God, to fish, to the Oreo. So in that moment, right? In that moment, it's a complete connection. So we're back to this moment, out in the woods. Out in the woods, I've come to a point where I'm manifesting abundance in incredible ways. The people around me are at the highest energetic level you can have. And so here I am. It comes to this moment of transcendence, of actually feeling what I think people mean when they say they feel God, like in a real tactile way. The way the bicycle can beat you down and reduce you to nothing, to figure out what you're made of and you can kind of get through it, life does that too, right? And my life was doing it to a point where I was not okay and I was having a hell of a time with it, right? And I started realizing, I was like, like the things I teach people on the bike, I need to teach myself for life. That's the purpose of this thing, right? The bike's a proxy for life. It is. And so I was like, shit, man, well, you know how to corner. First step, low hinge. Second step, straighten your inside elbow. It's that simple, right? So I'm like, you need to do this for your life. But the way I taught myself how to ride a bicycle well, I taught myself how to be a human. A happy human, a joyful human. A human who understands that I'm not separate. I'm part of all this stuff. The path that I chose, that God chose for me to master mountain biking, is the same exact path I used to save my own life. To get myself out of suicide, to get myself out of the deepest abyss I've ever experienced. That's it. So when I say biking saved my life, biking's important to me, I freaking mean it. And I'm not the only one out there. I'm not the only one out there. We have the mechanics of riding more dialed than anybody. This is something we work on constantly, something I push constantly. And as part of that, part of this mission, the whole row anti-row mindset, the rip row comes from that, the bike fit, the RideLogic bike fit philosophies. What's happened is we're creating a pretty complete suite of notions. But we're realizing now that the mechanics of what you do with your arms and your legs and your earlobe and your spleen are 10% of the experience, maybe. If you don't have the right mindset, if you have self-limiting beliefs, I'm pointing at this person. If you have self-limiting beliefs of any kind, it doesn't matter what we teach your body how to do, you ain't executing it. And you're not gonna feel good about it. And I understand this more and more deeply. This is our thing. So very soon, we're gonna shift to RideLogic. We're accreting the best souls in the world that we can find to help teach everybody how to live their best life using the mountain bike as a vehicle. That's what we're doing. We're on a mission from God. I freaking said that in public. That's what's going on. That's why we're here. Nama Stoke.